We are exactly 33 days away from the midterms, and election integrity is definitely on voters' minds. Rasmussen reports found that 61% of likely voters say the issue of election integrity is very important in this year's congressional races. Perhaps 2020 is still fresh in their minds. Rasmussen reports asked 1,000 people, how likely is it that cheating affected the outcome of the 2020 presidential election? 33% said it was very likely. 22% said somewhat likely. Only 11% said it wasn't very likely, and 29% said not likely at all, not at all likely. 5% said they weren't sure. And there's another new Rasmussen report poll out too. It asked 1,000 people, how likely is it that there will be widespread cheating that will affect the outcome of this fall's congressional elections? 25% said very likely, 24% said somewhat likely, 18% said not very likely, and 23% said not at all likely. So let's bring in Rasmussen Reports head pollster Mark Mitchell to break this all down for us. Now, Mark, this is something we've been following, right? We talk about it probably once a month at this point because it is such a big issue, particularly for our voters. So how has this changed since the last time we spoke about it?
Well, 55% of voters think it's at least somewhat likely that cheating affected the outcome of the 2020 election. We've asked that question, I don't know, 6 or 7 times since the end of 2020, and it has not changed at all. It's been mid 50s, plus or minus 2 or 3%, so within the margin of error. So I think, if anything, it points to how deceitful the media is being and why you need independent pollsters who are monitoring public opinion as a counter narrative. I just think of the hubris and gaslighting required to treat 55% of the electorate as if they were fringe conspiracy theorists. This isn't a fringe conspiracy. People are concerned. And look at that question too. It's not just was there cheating in the 2020 election. It's was there cheating that affected the outcome. So the implication there to many people who listen to that question is going to be, well, the outcome would have been different if there had been less cheating. And once again, it's not just a Republican thing. It's everybody. Americans don't like cheating. 90% of Americans think it's important to prevent cheating in elections. So, I mean, if you look at the party breakdowns, Republicans are more suspicious, obviously. 75% say cheating likely affected the outcome of the 2020 election. But still, 53%, a majority of independents, say the same thing, and 35% of Democrats. And I think it's also telling to look at the people who say, no, it's not at all likely cheating happened. That's only 29% of voters. So less than a third of voters are absolutely confident that the cheating is not affecting the outcome of the election. But only 8% of Republicans. So Republicans have absolutely no confidence in our electoral system. But also 50%, a majority of Democrats. That's not that high, considering it was their candidate who may have benefited from said cheating, right? So, the other question we asked, do people expect cheating in the midterms? So the number's lower. 49% of voters say that it's likely cheating is going to affect the midterms. And you could look at that a couple of different ways. Maybe people look back in 2020 and say, well, things were different then. There was COVID mail-in, ballots that were being potentially manipulated, or maybe it was just everybody pulled out all the stops to defeat Trump. Like, who knows? But I think the other thing, the way you could look at that is near a majority of voters think cheating is going to happen again. So this is a referendum on our electoral systems in this country. Only 23% of voters think it's not at all likely that cheating is going to affect the outcome of the midterms. I mean, that number is just horrifyingly low to me personally. Republicans, only 9%, but Democrats, only 36%. So only 36% of Democrats are confident that there's not going to be cheating in the midterm elections. It's bipartisan.
Those numbers are really low, and I think it then begs the next question, and I don't know if you've looked at this, and something I hear from Republican political operatives, they're so afraid. They don't want people really talking about election fraud and election integrity because they're afraid it's going to hurt the midterm turnout for their voters who clearly think there's lots of cheating, their base particularly, and they're really worried about that. Have you looked at maybe the particular question, does my vote count, and am I going to go vote in the midterms because I'm concerned about cheating or not? A way of asking that. Is that something you've looked at?
Yeah, that's fascinating. You think about an individual who's questioning the integrity of elections, and there's two ways to handle that. There's, I'm going to make sure there's more voting and get everybody out, or there's like, nope, I'm checked out. I don't know. We haven't put our finger on that particular pulse yet, but I think it's a great idea. Once again, I would love to have help, but as far as I know, there's really nobody else who's taken a look at election integrity to the extent we have. If your viewers want to go to Twitter, we just posted within the hour a handy field guide to election integrity that shows a lot of the narrative breaking polling that we've been doing on. There's a lot of narratives around this. I mean, how long has that narrative been in place that, IDs for voting are discriminatory and that black voters are against that? They're not. Black voters want to stop cheating in elections too, and they're just as likely as everybody else to want voter ID. So they're, come look at our polling. It's narrative breaking. We have a YouTube video on this that goes into more detail as well, and we're not going to stop polling on it because unlike the media, people care about this, and we realize that. We're not trying to push narratives.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we really appreciate that you all have been so dogged about getting the public opinion on this, because you're right. You're the only entity I know looking at this, and it's very important. Clearly, it's one of the most important issues to voters out there. So we're so glad you're keeping up with this. And yeah, go check out their Twitter, go check out the YouTube so that you can learn a little bit more. It's just fascinating when you really get into what people are thinking or how they're feeling about certain topics, especially this one. Thank you so much, Mark.
They're not burying this one under the rug. It's not going away. Numbers aren't changing. People remember 2020.
It's not.
Yeah.